Hello everyone, today is 16th of May, now it's 9 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment, and I will start with a short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. Russian Defense Ministry confirmed the information that Russian armed forces established control over the settlements of Lukyantsy and also settlement of Glubokaya. This is Liptsy direction or western flank of Russian local-scale offensive operations on a borderline with Ukraine in the northern part of Kharkov region. And as I mentioned, Liptsy is the main direction for this flank of Russian offensive. Yesterday, several sources already start reporting that Russian forces are conducting offensive operations inside the Liptsy settlement itself. And when it comes to eastern flank of Russian offensive operations, yesterday, Lenta.ru media outlet here in Russia, based on political expert Sergei Markov, reported that Volchansk main direction of Russian offensive in this eastern flank was under Russian control. Although during the day I did not see any other source that will confirm this information. Although there was many reports on the progress of Russian forces inside the Volchansk, and at this point, most likely. Most of the areas on the northern side of this Volchya river that crosses this town most likely is under full Russian control, and the southern part of this town is still controlled by Kiev regime forces. In any case, progress of Russian forces is quite significant, and the Volchansk is of course main direction of Russian grouping of forces in this eastern part of offensive. You're gonna see speculations on the Western media, and most likely already see that these local-scale offensive operations are major Russian offensive towards Kharkov and that kind of nonsense. But of course, this is not true. This is not a large-scale Russian offensive operation towards Kharkov, and therefore I did not expect Russian forces to rapidly advance towards Kharkov. It's not happening. This is not the task of Russian group of forces that are conducting these offensive operations. Main task is to establish a buffer zone, as it was announced, by the way, quite a number of times by Russian high-ranking officials, that buffer zone will be created to protect residents of the Russian settlements on Russian side of the border. And at any day we should expect similar local-scale offensive operations in Sumy and maybe Chernigov regions also. And what is also important, these local-scale offensive operations clearly achieve one of its or even several of its tasks. First of all, buffer zone creation of the buffer zone began. This is obvious. Dozens of settlements already are under Russian control, but also Kiev regime was forced to redeploy its units from other sectors of the front line. So Ukrainian armed forces are even more stretched right now, which is a big deal, of course. And also these successful Russian local-scale offensive operations, of course, further intensify internal confrontation inside the Kiev regime, and their high-ranking officials, politicians, and even militaries are now conducting this blame game, and they are blaming each other for failures on the line of contact. And even Western media outlets, by the way, now are publishing articles about money. Where is the money that was allocated to create some defense lines in Kharkov direction? And well, I also have that question: where is the money? On what Zelensky spent that hundreds of millions of dollars? Maybe he bought some another mansion somewhere in Miami or Florida. So who knows? I don't know. But yes, significant progress on part of Russian armed forces, and I wonder, I mean, how long it will take before Russian forces will conduct similar offensive in Sumy direction. If it will even happen, I mean, I cannot know for sure, isn't it? General staff definitely don't share information with me. So that's when it comes to Kharkiv direction. Initiative, of course, in Russian hands, and slowly but surely, Russian units are, advancing in these major two towns in these directions, Liptsi and Volchansk. When it comes to other sectors of the front line, Chisovyar, by the way, on the northern part of northern flank of Donetsk sector. Chisovyar is, of course, a hotspot, and several Russian sources reported that Ukrainian grouping of forces in Canal district area of the Chisovyar are now in operational encirclement, and because of the Russian advances towards the channels from both sides of this micro district, local garrison is unable now to receive reinforcements or munition or anything, basically, without being noticed by Russian forces, and all the lines of communication are under Russian direct fire control. Also, yesterday I shared with you this video of Russian offensive operation that took place inside this Canal district, in this area, and several sources are reporting that these several buildings in this block is under Russian control already. Although this is not a major offensive assault on this Canal district, it was reckoning force operation. I guess quite successful one, because sometimes reckoning force operation is not just about finding out where defense lines of their enemy forces are or what is the strength of the enemy forces. If reckoning force operation goes more than well enough, then it may become, it may turn into local scale offensive if forces are able to establish control over the certain areas. And I guess that's exactly what happened in Canal district. Also, by the way, Russian Defense Ministry reported that settlement of Umanskaya under Russian control now. So Defense Ministry confirmed information that Umanskaya, this settlement, is under full Russian control. This is, of course, Avdiivka sector of the front line, and the big news, of course, that at this point, all of you know, I'm quite sure about it. Rabotino settlement in Zaporozhye sector of the front line, in Orekhov bridgehead, also under full Russian control. Russian Defense Ministry confirmed this information. This is Rabotino, by the way. So this settlement here, under full Russian control. Russian forces conducted successful offensive operations towards Rabotino quite a while ago, and the majority of this majority of territory of this settlement was under Russian control already, but there were small pockets of resistance, pockets of Kyiv regime forces presented in the vicinity of settlement, and therefore Defense Ministry was not in a hurry to make statement that Rabotino is under Russian control. And I guess those small pockets was neutralized during the previous days, and well, now it's official. Rabotino, only settlement that Kyiv regime managed to establish control over during this 2023 spring-summer counteroffensive, this only settlement that they managed to capture is under Russian control again, was liberated by Russian forces once again from neo-Nazi terrorist Kyiv regime, or Zelensky's regime. So yes, this is when it comes to short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. Of course, Russian units are continuing their local scale offensive operations in Urozhaynaya Staromayorskaya area quite successfully, and well, At this point, I would not be surprised at all if tomorrow or day after we will receive information that Russian forces establish control over both these settlements, also on Vremevsky salient. And yes, this is it for a short summary. And I will continue with some other news now. And of course, first of all, report about Prime Minister of Slovakia, Roberto Fico. As we all know, yesterday there was an assassination attempt on Roberto Fico. He was shot several times from close range by some 71-year-old opposition supporter, local citizen, Slovakian citizen. And well, because of the unbelievable unprofessionalism of the security of the prime minister, this happened. Prime Minister Fico was shot. At least 5 or 6 shots was made. I saw video, and by sound, if I remember correctly, it was at least 5 or 6 shots. 3 of them hit Prime Minister, and he was rushed into hospital, of course, and medics conducted surgeries on him. And right now, Vice Prime Minister of Slovakia, just a little ago, Tomáš Taraba, stated that after surgeries, health of the and life of the Roberto Fico is not in danger no more. So he's been stabilized. He's in a artificial coma, as I understand, and the main information, of course, is that his life is not in danger at this point. Medics basically save his life. This is good news, but unfortunately, he was shot. That was quite shocking. That was quite shocking. And I guess. And by the way, wife of that 71-year-old shooter was also detained yesterday. So something is going on there. Very strange story. And I would not be surprised at all if investigation that will be conducted on this tragic incident will reveal maybe that this individual shooter was influenced by some forces. I would not be surprised at all if investigation will come up with such a conclusion. After all, Fico had very powerful enemies among ruling class of the West, because of his political stance about Ukrainian conflict, about Brussels' grip on power and constant attempts to take more and more rights from sovereign states, members of the EU. And well, I'm quite sure there was many people in the leadership of the collective West that was not upset at all, or maybe even happy that Fico was shot at. Anyways, let's continue. Main news now is that his life is not in danger right now. Medics have stabilized him. RT is reporting that Putin arrived in China. And already negotiations are taking place. He had a meeting with Xi Jinping this morning. I shared. This is, by the way, some video of arrival of the Russian president. And this morning on my Telegram channel, I shared some videos about this visit. Already negotiations are taking place. Huge delegation, by the way, huge delegation from Russia went to China with the president. And I expect some very serious agreements to be reached by sides. During the day, of course, we will learn more about possible agreements that was reached. And in the second update on my Patreon page, of course, I will share all this additional information. And dear friends, I just mentioned Patreon, and well, if you like this channel, and if you want to support my work, please consider to subscribe to my Patreon page, on which I'm uploading some extra content on regular basis, at least several times a week. And so yes, link is under this video in description box. So yes, this is big news, of course, main news of the day. Undoubtedly, visit of Russian president to China, main news in Russia, obviously. Anyways, let's continue. And Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that, well, I already mentioned that Russian Defense Ministry confirmed information that Rabotino have been liberated by Russian forces in the Zaporozhye sector of the Frontline. Also, Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that groups of Kiev regime forces end up in operational encirclement in Chisov Yar, on the eastern parts of Chisov Yar, and this is a Canal district, by the way. Canal district, which is clearly in operational encirclement, because from three sides Russian forces are controlling area, and canal crossings between this district of the Chisov Yar and the main part of the city is also under Russian fire control. Vzglyad newspaper also reporting that Kiev regime deploying towards Kharkov region a loot assault brigade. This brigade was in Chisov Yar and now have been redeployed towards northern parts of the Kharkov region. Loot have been destroyed several times, by the way, by Russian forces. For example, in Klishevka, Andreevka areas, this brigade had so much losses that it had to be withdrawn and then built from the scratch. Then was deployed towards Chisov Yar and now have been redeployed towards northern parts of Kharkov region. This assault brigade is based on Kiev regime's police forces, and will be destroyed once again, no doubts about that. TASS news agency is reporting, and by the way, information itself is highlighting how stretched Kiev regime forces really are. They are, kidnapping people left and right on the streets to forcefully mobilize. Kiev regime to forcefully mobilize and to create additional brigades to create some reserve forces. But anyways, only so many people they can kidnap, isn't it? And therefore, Kiev regime forces are significantly stretched, and I guess if Russian forces will now further increase pressure, not just on current line of contact, but maybe even in Sumy and Chernigov regions, well, that may definitely cause domino effect in Ukrainian armed forces and collapse all along the front line. Not immediately, but in time. So let's see how will things develop. TASS news agency is reporting that head of US State Department announced 2 billion additional aid, by the way, for Kiev regime, worth of $2 billion. And as far as I understand, these 2 billions are not from that 60+ billion that was allocated already for formally for Kiev regime. This is a new aid package, so I don't know, maybe US military industrial complex not happy with money that they already received from this Ukrainian crisis. They want some more, and well, they will receive more. Biden's administration seems like very happy to further enrich US military industrial complex. Of course, no amount of weapon systems, as I said many times before, can turn the tide in this proxy war that collective West is waging against Russia. There's no way Western ruling class can achieve success in this war against Russia. It's just impossible. they will just prolong this conflict and will, sacrifice more citizens of Ukraine. That's all they're gonna achieve, really. RT is reporting that France announces surprise extra military aid package for Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron has agreed to provide an extra military aid package to Ukraine within the next several weeks, boosting support for Kiev and rising fears over Russian battlefield gains. Same time, by the way, we don't really have some specifications what exactly France is planning to send to Kiev regime, what weapons. Most likely it's going to be another Caesar artillery pieces, if France has any left. Maybe some ammunition, some trucks, some vehicles, transport vehicles. I don't think France gonna send its Leclerc tanks to the battlefield, although it will be interesting to see how well Leclerc tanks are burning. But well, no Leclercs for Kiev regime for now. Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that President of Czechia, by the way, extreme Russophobe Pavel Peter, isn't it? Peter Pavel surprisingly called for end of hostilities in Ukraine and for start of negotiations. I didn't expect this, by the way. I didn't expect this individual is, one of the most extreme Russophobes among leadership of EU member states or NATO member states. Crazy sick Russophobe. And what happened with him? Maybe he took some medication, maybe he got some proper psychiatrist, and I don't know, man. I was surprised to see, really, President of Czechia calling for end of hostilities and negotiations? What happened to him? So yes, he's in an interview with the Sky News channel, he called basically for end of hostilities, for negotiations, and he said that, well, only through negotiations can be, achieved peace, and he also mentioned that during the negotiations, interests of positions of all involved sides must be taken in account. Very strange, by the way. Something happened with this extreme Russophobe. So Czech President Petr Pavel, in an interview with the Sky News, called for cessation of the hostilities in Ukraine and the start of negotiations on a post-war settlement. It is necessary to stop the war and start discussing the future post-war system, he said, answering the question whether Ukraine should now begin negotiations with Russia and stop hostilities. Petr Pavel, President of Czechia, believes that Ukraine in the foreseeable future will not be able to return the territories occupied by Russia. We must be realistic, he stressed. According to him, the parties to the conflict must come to compromise during the negotiations after the cessation of the hostilities. At the same time, the opinions of Ukraine, Russia, and the countries that will act as guarantors of this agreement must be taken into account. And well, once again, very, very surprising statements from this individual, from President of Czech Republic, and also he's of course mistaken here. He should say territories that was liberated by Russian forces, not occupied, liberated. That's what Russia does. Russia is liberating territories from a neo-Nazi and terrorist regime in Kiev. That's important point here. But in any ways, can you imagine that this person, where is he? This person that just a few weeks ago was bragging about defeating Russia on the battlefield, and he was bragging about this million artillery shells that they're gonna send to Kiev regime, and they're gonna do this and that. This individual is talking about some negotiations and the Russian point of view to be taken in account. Really, Well done to whatever psychiatrist was treating this bitch, man. This president of Czechia, Czech Republic. Anyways, let's continue with some other news. It will be better if more and more the so-called leaders of the NATO member states will be treated well by medics and will come to their senses eventually and start making statements that do make sense. Because these statements of Petro Pavel definitely does make sense. Of course, it will be better if collective West will push narrative of ending of hostilities and negotiations. That's what Russia was calling for basically even before special military operation began. Russia addressed US, Russia addressed collective West and sent proposals to start negotiations, to de-escalate between the sides. But collective West did not listen, not just did not listen, but they provoke eventually this conflict in Ukraine and sacrifice Ukraine and Ukrainian citizens for their geopolitical agenda and continuing to sacrifice. Anyways, let's continue. TASS News Agency is reporting that President of Russian Federation, before his visit started to China, signed a law that prohibits foreign agents to participate in elections of any level in Russia. As you know, law about foreign agents are adopted in Russia for quite a while now, and this is an addition to that law that whoever have been designated as a foreign agent will not be able to participate in elections. Absolutely understandable and right approach if you are receiving funds for whatever activities. If you are receiving funds from outside of Russia, then you should not be able to participate in elections and to have influence on political life of the country. It's just too simple, isn't it? It is what it is. So yes, I absolutely support this decision. It's a right decision. And when it comes to foreign law, by the way, of course, this topic is very active nowadays because of this attempt to destabilize Georgia and to conduct regime change there in Georgia, attempts of the Western ruling class and their proxies inside Georgia. And for example, let me show you this video, by the way. Do you recognize this individual? This is, by the way, foreign ministers of Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia marching here in Tbilisi. They joined these demonstrations of the opposition, Western-controlled so-called opposition. They joined political rally, by the way, of the so-called political groups in Georgia, which is crazy, isn't it? If this is not intervening in the Georgia's internal political affairs, then I don't know what this is. I mean, I guess Tbilisi will react on this, and I don't know, level of diplomatic relationships with these Baltic quasi-states definitely had to be downgraded, or maybe even ambassadors recalled, because this is not normal. This is not normal ever, anywhere, when foreign ministers of the foreign countries are joining some political rallies in your country. What the hell, man? This is not normal, and clear example of Western involvement in this attempt to destabilize Georgia and to then sacrifice, to use it as a kind of second front against Russia and to sacrifice for geopolitical agenda of the Western ruling class. These protesters in Georgia, of course, formally they are protesting against foreign law that was adopted by Georgian parliament, but this is just a reason. In reality, of course, main task for them is to basically conduct regime change, act on the orders of the Western ruling class. And today, by the way, this morning I shared this information that Mayor of Tbilisi, Kaha Kaladze, many of you maybe are familiar with him. If you know, he was playing football in Milan, by the way. He is a football player. In US, you call it soccer, isn't it? Not a football. So he was a star in Milan, Kahi Kaladze, and he's a mayor now of Tbilisi for quite a while. And let's go through this information. I wanted to tell everyone, both inside and outside the country, that Ukrainization will not happen in Georgia. The mayor of Tbilisi, Kaha Kaladze, spoke about this in the Night Courier program. So he stated this during his appearance on one of the TV channels. As he mentioned, the processes that are happening in Georgia today are similar to processes that happened in Ukraine in 2014. According to him, today there is an attempt to organize a revolution of donors. He was sarcastic, obviously, revolution of donors, because this foreign agent law will demand from everybody, all organizations and private figures that are involved in the public life, to acknowledge from where they are receiving funds. And that's why he called it attempt to organize a revolution of the donors. This is clearly an attempt to destabilize country by Western ruling class, undoubtedly, and to sacrifice Georgia eventually. And I hope government of Georgia will do whatever it takes to tackle all the provocations on the top level, and to secure society of Georgia and Georgia statehood. Because if those criminals, by the way, if those Western-controlled criminals, so-called opposition in Georgia and non-governmental organizations and the rest of the crap, if they manage to conduct regime change in Georgia, that will be end for this post-Soviet republic. That simply will be it. I'm afraid in that case, Georgia will definitely be, become yet another tool against Russia in hands of Western ruling class. Georgia will be sacrificed, and it will lose not just the lives of its citizens, but statehood. Territories, by the way, territories, and possibly even statehood. So that's how devastating for Georgian society in Georgia situation may develop in case of regime change, and if power will be transferred to those Western-controlled criminals there. Anyways, let's continue. TASS News Agency is reporting that, ambassadors of the EU states agreed, achieve a solution or agreement that several Russian media outlets will be banned in EU. Okay, number of Russian media outlets already being banned in EU, and now they will ban Российская газета, newspaper, Известия newspaper, also RIA Novosti news agency, and Voice of Europe portal. These four media outlets most likely will be banned in Europe, and that's and simultaneously, by the way, these people in charge of EU, these Brussels officials will come out, or high-ranking officials of the EU member states will come out and start talking about some freedom of speech and plurality and so on, man. I mean, how disgusting those so-called elites of the West really are, man. I mean, unbelievable. Anyways, I will end this update on this news, by the way, that EU nations push for sanctions on the global financial institutions over Russia. This was reported in article on Reuters. So France and the Netherlands have been advocating for the EU to impose sanctions on any financial institution globally that helps Russia's military pay for goods or technology that can be used for making weapons. Reuters has reported the EU already has a ban in place on selling to Russia certain dual-use goods and technologies that have both civilian and military applications, according to Reuters. Citing the French and the Dutch proposal, it is suggested that EU individuals and their entities could be banned from doing business with any financial institution in the world that is identified by the bloc as directly or indirectly helping Russia's military obtain forbidden dual-use goods and technologies. Basically, to say directly what these proposals really are, is that they want to ban any business to be done with Russia. It's not about military-industrial complex, absolutely not. By the way, it's about further increasing pressure on Russian economy. So they want now basically to prohibit anybody to do business with Russia. These idiots in high-ranking positions of the EU, France and the Netherlands, in this particular case, clearly don't understand that more sanctions they are imposing on Russia, more they are hurting their own fellow citizens, citizens of EU member states. It's just too obvious at this point. I don't understand how these people are able to not see how much damage they did to EU already and to reputation of the financial and banking system of the world, West, by these crazy actions. So they will continue, and most likely in 14th anti-Russian this sanctions package, or maybe in 15th, Brussels probably will ban any business to be done with Russia by anybody in this world, and therefore they will further isolate themselves. Because of course businesses worldwide, they're gonna find the ways to do business with Russia, obviously, because that's what business does. They want to be successful, and companies will find the ways to cooperate anyways. But this type of decisions, will definitely further isolate Western world from the rest of the world, and simultaneously, of course, this type of decisions exactly the reason why BRICS member states, with cooperation with other global organizations like Shanghai Cooperation Organization, African Union, and other groups, by the way, Arab League and so on, definitely had to come up with the alternative financial system, alternative banking system, alternative world reserve currency. It is just so necessary that I don't know, man. And work, I'm quite sure work is done on this direction. And maybe, by the way, maybe today we will hear something about these topics from China during Russian president's visit, state visit into China. Maybe we will receive some information about steps that have been made to basically tackle issues that have been created by collective West with the weaponization of their financial and banking system. So yes, let's see. This is it for now. A relatively short update. Hopefully you will find it interesting and informative, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. This is the only way we can deal with the algorithm to reach wider audience. And for very same reason, if you can, please share links to my videos on any of the platforms that you are active on. I know, dear friends, that on Facebook my channel is blacklisted, so you cannot share link on Facebook. Yesterday several members of our community tell me about it. But there is other platforms also, and well, if you like this channel, dear friends, if you like this channel, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. All the links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.